Chapter 5, Countdown Day. Concraft is lively against the dappled rays through conwoods, just like all other summer mornings. Creamy is inside, watching the parrots dance against the tall birch trees. Where is Appa? She should have arrived by now. Other went out to the plaza to do something since dawn, and still hadn't returned, which wasn't like him at all. That, plus the fact that Appa still hasn't arrived yet, had made Creamy worry all morning. Let all members of Concraft gather beneath the great fallen tree for a town meeting, Mayor Kanhata announced from the distance. Good, Creamy needed something to distract himself with. The great fallen tree didn't have any complicated history. When Kanhata found Concraft, he'd simply chopped it down and decided to give it a dramatic name. Creamy joined Blue and Unicorn closest to the great fallen tree. That's the spot reserved for the town veterans. Why did I stumble on veterans? Once he settled, Kanhata surveyed the Concraft glade. We are missing quite some people. Okay. Sorry I'm late, Creamy recognized Phoebe's voice through the trees as she skidded to a halt inside the clearing. Minji and I were practicing. Understandable, Kanhata nodded. We can start now. Of course, everyone knew what this meeting was about, the simulation. Concraft had a tradition of celebrating before the day of the simulation, called the Countdown Day by many. Shame that Other can't participate. Kanhata hadn't allowed Other to live in Concraft, but Creamy snuck him in. It was simple, since, while Concraft is a community, its members did many different things. In fact, some of them, such as Plebes and Scissors, didn't even live in Concraft. I would also like to note that this technically doesn't make any sense anymore, and half the things about Concraft in this story no longer even line up. Hooray. Now, as we all know, tomorrow the simulation starts. I'm proud to say that many of our amazing Concraft members are participating, including myself. As a Concraft tradition, tonight we will feast. While I am gone, Embers will be acting mayor. Creamy glanced towards the half-penguin, who looked proud. There is a high chance that a Concrafter will become a part of the selected team, and if so, I wish them good luck, Kanhata paused. We've always lived in secret, but slowly more people seem to come to Conwoods. I worry someday Concraft might be discovered. We just won't let them, Blue spoke up. I wish it was that easy, Kanhata sighed, but for now the meeting is over. Creamy returned back to his secluded home, quite far away from the glade. He made sure it was like this so that Other wouldn't be discovered. To his relief, Appa was sitting on his desk when he returned. Appalachia is his lime green parrot. Well, not exactly his. She had her own family to take care of, and a big flock she was a part of. He'd met her in Conwoods a really, really long time ago. That was when Concraft was barely a thing. Where have you been? Creamy asked. Appa chirped. Well, have you seen Other? Appa nodded. Good, where is he? Creamy asked. Lead me to him. Appa fluttered out the window, and once Creamy was outside, he couldn't find her at all. Of course, he knew it was all just a trick. Appa is too lime to blend in with the darker birch trees. There you are, he saw her circling overhead. Come on, we go the secret way. He and Other had marked that way so that Other could come in without anyone noticing. He almost hardly ever uses the actual main entrance to Concraft. The secret path led out to the spawn plaza, where several of the ship captains seemed to be watching over a training session. Creamy took one look and continued following Appa. They paused I cannot. Oh my. They passed the plaza and into the castle gates, where he finally did see Others sitting on the bridge across one of the streams. Creamy glanced at Appa, who settled on Other's shoulders and screeched. What? Other looked up. Ugh, Creamy, you need to get rid of this pesky thing. She's not a pesky thing, Creamy replied. What are you doing here anyway? I'm in the middle of a thinking session, Other answered, annoyed. Wow, you have those? Yes, I had a complicated question in my mind, and you ruined it. Tomorrow is the simulation. We should do some practicing. We did a lot of practicing. Well, we should go back to Concrafts for now. I'll sneak something out for you tonight, Creamy winked. Alright. Appa, lead the way, Creamy called, and Appa happily agreed. You know she'll have to leave you soon, right? Other whispered. It's summer right now. Once winter comes, she'll have to leave for the warmer districts. Creamy shuddered. Right, of course. Kanhada. Come in, Kanhada said, although he was too busy looking at the door. I've done a ton of practicing. Omega closed the door behind him. He held his diamond axe closely, glinting in the mostly dark room. Good, I have too, Kanhada paused, looking at Omega's diamond axe. Are you sure you can bring that into the simulation? Doubtful, but I might be able to sneak it in. I won't be the only one trying. Omega stood next to Kanhada, glancing at the contestant list, which he is studying. You're still looking at that list? Yes, I'm picking out names I should look out for. Pizza's Blue, Hack, and Pixel are the ones I've caught so far. Pizza's for being a helper. Blue because I know my fellow Concrafter well. Hack because the whole door behind the throne thing. And Pixel because he's so good at fighting. Is Hack in the story? I didn't know he was in the story. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember that. I, for one, think the notable ones are TGT and his pro gamer skills, Webby for his spider powers. That's not a word I can pronounce for their navigation abilities, and, yeah, that's probably it. Kanhada nodded, but overall none of them we know is super overpowered. We should take this pretty easily. Khan, Omega said, what if I told you someone who won the Global Hunger Games twice in a row is participating in this? That's just going to be unfortunate for us, Kanhada shrugged. Has someone ever won the Global Hunger Games twice in a row? He couldn't remember. Normally, he never paid any attention to the Hunger Games. Wait, there isn't actually someone who did, right? Well, do you remember who won last year, Omega asked. Not us. True, yeah, just don't worry about it. Kanhada nodded. Out of all the Concrafters participating, we should be among the top. Omega seemed to agree, although Kanhada could see something behind his eyes. Okay, what are you worried about? Omega. Now, how would he explain this person who won the global twice in a row, who will probably completely obliterate everyone, is apparently in the simulation? Why, though? It's Hive's selection process. Kanhada was still waiting for an answer. Don't worry about it, Omega. Why am I so bad at reading? Don't worry about it, Omega finally said. Okay, but I want to know why you brought up winning the global twice in a row randomly. Now that I think about it, there was someone who did that, I'm pretty sure. There's so many things Omega had to worry about. There is someone here that has absolutely no reason to be here. I need to find out why he's here. Okay, go ask him. If only that it was that easy, Omega sighed. What's for the feast tonight? His attempt at changing the topic was successful. Honestly, I don't know. Scissors is in charge of food. He said he's gonna get something delicious, but his definition of delicious might be different than ours. Omega hardly listened. I should go talk to him before tomorrow. It's another normal day at the lovely Velvet. Ari sat at her desk, looking over the designs for the autumn Hive hoodies. Ari, how are the Halloween hoodies going? Looking up, Ari saw Pizza's just walking in the shop. Oh, I was just looking over it. I'm going to have a red leaf design, a sunset one, possibly a skeleton one, but I don't want to scare the children. Ah, Pizza's nodded. Hardworking as always, despite what's happening tomorrow. Oh dear, I almost forgot. Tomorrow's the simulation. Relatable. The helpers just had a meeting in the door behind the throne. Huh? Huh? In the door? In the door? Okay. And I almost forgot, too. He leaned in and whispered. They think you'll make a good helper. What? No way. Yeah, speaking of which, who's your teammate? Pixel. Ari suddenly remembered. He said he wanted me to meet him at the birch forest. Where? Now. Well, you better run, Pizza's called, making way for her. Look over the shop while I'm gone, will you? Ari called back. Of course, Pizza's answered. Why is this? It's so spread out. Unicorn. This is Conwoods. Uni flicked over the bushes that covered up the main path to Concraft. You might not want to go in there. Kanhada doesn't like strangers in his town. Ah, what's it like in there? Ryan asked, peeking into the main path. Well, most days are beautiful, with dabbled sunshine on the houses. The birch forest has dark-colored leaves that fit the sunlight perfectly. Kanhata announces stuff on the great fallen tree. Sometimes Deputy Mayor Omega says stuff on it, too. I'm one of the veteran residents, along with Creamy and Blue. There's a lot more, but that's pretty much life in the Concraft. Uni glanced at the sun. We have a feast tonight. That's really soon. You should go, Ryan answered. Uni nodded. See you tomorrow morning at the docks? Yep, bye, Uni, Ryan called, leaving slowly. Just gonna ignore that. Having a grandpa like Ryan could be hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, Uni loved him as well. Uni stepped into the main path. That's not a... Is relishing? Relishing. Yes, relishing in the sunlight and taking his time. He should probably be training with Ryan, but he didn't want to work up Ryan, and he didn't want to try hard. He mostly just wanted to do the simulation for fun. A shadow was ahead of him. He tensed, but it wasn't a shadow. Just someone with dark hair who's wearing dark. Already he recognized the owner of the lovely velvet, the one who designed the first Hive hoodies, which is pretty much something every Hive resident has heard about now. Hey, Uni, have you seen Pixel? Uni squinted to remember the former Crimecraft resident. I was just outside, so I don't know. You might be visiting. Sure enough, Uni did see Pixel talking to Kanhata next to the campfire. Yes, that's what Kanhata called the Concraft-shaped campfire. Oh, that is a lot to say. Concraft-shared campfire. Ah, Ari, Kanhata called after noticing them approaching the glade. Why don't you and Pixel stay for the feast tonight? Great idea, isn't it? Pixel asked. Ari nodded. And afterward, all Concraft members should have a training session together along with Pixel and Ari. We could even invite some others who are also participating in the simulation, Blue suggested. Amazing. Now we just have to wait for Scissors to return with the food. Kanhata looked towards the main entrance. Speaking of Scissors, here he comes. Scissors was holding something behind his back. What is that? Pixel asked. Ta-da! Ta-da! It was fish. I caught all of them in J Blossom's very own Lake Creative. Ew, what is wrong with you? Blue asked, frowning. Uni had to agree with Blue on that. I promise they'll taste good when they're cooked, Scissors said. For now, we should start preparing the feast. Everyone, get busy. Bryalgic had almost forgotten about the Concraft feast. When he finally burst into the glade, night had fallen, and the feast had already started a while ago. If it isn't Bryalgic, always late, Blue said in his usual sarcastic tone. I feel like Well, at least I remembered. What's on the menu? Bryalgic didn't need to wait for an answer. Fish. Pixel held up his share of Scissors' pile, looking delicious under the campfire. Confire! Why? Come take your share, Scissors called on top of the scaffolding used to reach the tip of the campfire. Catch! Bryalgic caught the cooked fish, and he threw just as Kanhata said, "We are going to have a training session after this." Soccer is currently delivering invitations to some non-Concrafter contestants. I was confused. I was like, a sport is delivering them? Me and Minji are going to lead it, Plebe said from the back. We've been practicing since before the registration. Nice! Victory is always going to be me and Omega's, though, Kanhata said. It's probably going to be more me and TGT who wins. Bryalgic had his support from the command blocks. It's me and Blaze. That's a dumb thing to say out loud, so I'm not going to say it, Potato said. Probably none of us, Omega looked lost in thought. Bryalgic sat down next to Pixel, who suddenly looked up. Say, has anyone seen Creamy? Yes, Creamy has arrived, Creamy called, almost appearing out of nowhere. Had been disappearing. Blue had keener eyes. Why were you on a tree? Participating for the simulation. It's probably going to have some trees in there, Creamy answered. Also, does it really have to be fish that you bring? He looked towards Scissors. What, you want us to eat ice cream instead? Scissors winked. Nope, not my ice cream brothers. Creamy shook his head. Oh, that reminds me of something. The rest of the feast is filled with happiness and laughter, and Bryalgic knew he got this. Creamy. The training session had started. Many, possibly all non-Croncrafters contestants had arrived, as well as Centuria, Cyclosword, and Leo, who had also come to watch. Thank me, Soccer had been breathless after bringing them back, and let me sleep. Other finally had a reason to come out into the glade, which Creamy was glad about. He's with him now under the great fallen tree, which Kanhata had given Plebes permission to use. Everyone, find your teammates, she announced from the top. Minji stood next to her, surveying the contestants. Everything went on as normal. Sometime during the middle, when Plebes had announced a break, Appa came and stood on Creamy's shoulders. Do you think we'll win? Other asked, sitting down next to him. Probably not. Creamy tapped Appa on the head, and she chirped happily. Who will? No idea. On top of the great fallen tree, Plebes and Minji held out many bows and quivers of arrows. Kanhata suggested we go to the beach side to practice bowing against the drowns. That doesn't look right. Okay. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't look right. Underwater mob spawning is one of the few things the Hive hadn't controlled yet. Personally, Creamy didn't think it was much of a problem. After all, no one goes swimming at night. We're going now. Everyone follow Plebes, and I'll bring up the rear. Minji threw down some bows and arrows. The beach at the Hive Island was relaxing and calm at night. Others sat down on a rock, along with Creamy, scanning the waves for the dangerous underwater mobs. There seemed to be none, and after a while he relaxed, occasionally elbowing Creamy just for the fun of it. Creamy was tending to his parrot, Appalachia or something, that Other was honestly pretty annoyed with. He'd put up with that pesky thing, though, just for Creamy. A few adventurous contestants, named Bryalgic Sterling and Chip, ventured to the edge of the waves where Chip was testing the water. Almost suddenly, in slow motion, that does not add up, Chip's shrieks split the air as a trident flew out of the water to strike him down. The beach erupted into chaos. Other jumped down and onto the edge of the water, and he could feel Creamy's footsteps behind him. He could see it now, the drowned mobs rising out of the ghostly water. He bowed a couple down and was quickly targeted by the drowns. He guessed they deemed him capable. Creamy knocked down a trident that was coming his way. Thanks, he muttered. Just paying you back, Creamy said, standing next to him. Other hadn't expected Creamy to remember, but he supposed he should be glad that he did. It's getting out of control, Plebes yelled through the battle. The Hive District never controlled this because they didn't think it was serious enough. Big mistake, said Sirloin through clenched teeth. I read that so badly. Behind the drowns, Other could see more vicious, bloodthirsty eyes. Guardians. More trouble. Good thing about this fight was that the enemies were defenseless on land. Their stinging rays and tridents and fishing rods were very difficult to deal with, though. Other felt almost paralyzed as some of the Guardians fixed their eyes on him. Get in the back, Creamy said. Is that an order? Yes. Other smiled and made his way to the back, where he watched the fight happen in front of him. Adept stood beside him, and they faced each other simultaneously. I have always had trouble reading that word. What even is happening, Adept said. I don't have a clue, Other shook his head. It's getting out of hand, that was Minji's voice, high over bow shots and trident strikes. Almost abruptly, something had snapped. The clear sky darkened, and the lightning falls into the water in front of Other. So close. Was that even lightning? It was so slow. The thunder rumbled just after. And when it stopped, everything was calm. There was a special trident, powered with electricity, splitting a rock in half. Waves washed over the rock, but the trident was unfazed. Don't touch it, Plebes ordered, not like anyone is going to. Other blinked. He'd seen a flash just before the lightning. Someone threw the trident. Duh, did you think the trident threw itself? Creamy was beside him again. Other turned around and gazed into the spiral hills surrounding the Hive District's main island. Had someone been there? We should go back. Benji broke the silence. Yes, Concrafters, follow me, Kanhada called to his town residents. Linger back a little bit, Creamy whispered before joining the Concrafters. Arthur was only half listening. He had to find out who in the name of Peace Garden possessed such a strong weapon. It was probably just a channeling trident, but other knows. I cannot speak. But other knows enough about the art of the weapons to know that a strike of lightning that strong, it would have to be a weapon wielded by someone powerful. He turned around halfway up the hill, seeing the dead bodies of the sea creatures rising above the seas, painting a clear water red. It doesn't have loyalty on it. I don't think. From above the hill, Other glanced at the trident again. It had stopped frizzling with electricity by now. The wielder would have come back to retrieve it. Other wouldn't do anything to satisfy his curiosity about it, but Creamy would get worried about him. Other would do anything. He stood there thinking and decided that Creamy was more important.